Hello, I'm Roger Bisbee from the Skill Builder channel, and today in this little rant I'd like to talk to you about spray foam insulation. Now, you've probably all seen those cans of foam that you get, but this is an industrial process, a professional coming in and spraying the inside of your loft or even the space in your walls with some kind of spray foam. So spray foam, what's not to like about spray foam? It saves you all that cutting, it saves all that laborious process, and it produces a lovely airtight seal. You don't get those draft gaps like you might get if you were trying to put in PIR or PUR board, something like Celotex or Kingspan, and you don't cut it that accurately, and then you get little gaps, and of course the air gets through, and as the air gets through, the heat gets through. So spray foam is sort of 100% seal because it fills in all those tiny gaps. The biggest problem with spray foam is that mortgage companies don't like it. If you go to sell your house and they see you've got spray foam in the loft, they're very likely to say to the person who's going to buy your house, we won't give you a mortgage on this property. They can't see the roof structure because it's been covered in all this lovely spray foam. They can no longer see the condition of the roof. That means that the timbers could be rotting. They would know nothing about it. But I would say that's a little bit of a strange thing, because if you think of something like a loft conversion, for example, you could have, as our friend Reg the other week found out in his house, you could have damp building up inside that roof space, rotting those timbers, and you would know absolutely nothing about it because they don't go around with a little camera checking what's happening behind that insulation. Even if they could get there, they don't do it. So they assume that a loft conversion has been built to standards and that ventilation is in there, or if it's not needed, then it's a warm roof and therefore it's perfectly sound. But when it comes to spray foam, they assume that all kinds of horrors are taking place behind that spray foam. They assume that damp is building up there and it's rotting the timbers. Now, we have two types. We've got closed cell and we've got open cell. Now, the closed cell means that all those lovely little bubbles are all kind of closed up, and the moisture, the airborne moisture, the steam, the vapor can't get through because the closed cell stops any transfer of moisture through the material. The open cell allows that moisture to go through. Now you might think, okay, if it's open cell, that means, in those words, it can breathe, as they say. And it means that any moisture that's trapped inside your loft or somewhere else, or your walls even, because we're also talking about stud walls here, it means that that moisture can permeate through and it can escape the other side. And therein lies the rub, because can it escape the other side? If you've got an impermeable membrane on the other side of the roof, the moisture is going to get through that open cell foam and it's going to sit there trapped behind the open cell foam and the impermeable membrane under tile slating that you've got there. So very important that you look first of all at whether you've got that situation. If you have got that situation, if you've got an impermeable membrane, then you might like to say, let's go for the closed cell. And that means that the moisture is stuck. It's almost like a vapor barrier. Well, in fact, it is a vapor barrier, and it means that that moisture can't get through, which then means that it's hanging around inside your loft, which is, you know, if it's warm inside the loft because you've basically created a heated space, then you could say that that moisture is going to escape like all other moisture. It's going to disappear through the vents or anything else that you've got in the loft. Would very often have this spray foam in conjunction with a loft conversion. So you've got the spray foam that's been put in, then you've got maybe an air gap, and then you've got the plasterboard going in there, and that's got a vapor barrier on it maybe, and then you've got some kind of trickle ventilators in the loft or some kind of extractor fan which takes that moisture away out into the open air. But if you haven't got that and that moisture's hanging around, it could start to build up mold. Now, another thing to observe about spray foam is that it's very rarely put in that thick. In other words, when you get something like, you know, Celotex Kingspan or any of those products, they tend to be sort of 100 mil, 120 mil, that kind of thing. And so you've got quite a bit of mass there through which the heat can't travel. But with spray foam, they might put it into a depth of maybe 25 millimeters, 50 millimeters, something like that. And then they rely on having that lovely sealed air gap on the inside between the spray foam and the plasterboard. You've got a sealed air gap there, which is basically a heated space. And that stops a lot of the heat transferring because it's very difficult for heat to travel across a dead airspace. But of course, you've still got your rafters there. You've still got all those other areas where they're directly in contact with the outside. So you've got a bit of cold bridging. And you will see on some days, you can actually see the pattern emerging on the inside of the plasterboard where you've got a difference between what's insulated and what isn't insulated. So in those cases, very often people put a layer of Celotex or something like that across the underside, 25mm, to just give some insulation onto those rafters. So it could well be that you end up with a combination of the two. You end up with a spray foam and you end up with some more conventional cut insulation, if you like, that you're going to put in. Those are the things to consider. First of all, if you're selling your house, it could be a problem. Having said that, I know a builder that uses spray foam all the time. He gets the pros in, they spray the house in one go and it's all done. He hasn't got to pay people to cut up insulation. And if you consider that this stuff arrives in a couple of small canisters, that's a huge saving in terms of transportation costs, because a lot of the time when you're transporting insulation material around the country, the big cost there is, of course, the lorries full up with this insulation, you know, so it arrives on site with a carbon footprint before you even start. With the spray foam, it comes in 2 cans, it's mixed together on site and it expands and forms the insulation. It's a lovely idea. And there are DIY kits available to do this. Semi-detached 3-bedroom house, probably about 750 quid to do that. You get the 2 canisters, you get a little gun and you spray the stuff in yourself. Don't try it. It is absolutely probably the worst thing you can do. It's not a DIY product. You need to know what you're doing, because if you don't get that mix right, and it does vary with temperature, what you need in the summer is different to what you need in the winter. So these guys spend weeks and weeks training so that they know how to apply that material. And if you apply it yourself, it can shrink back from all around the joists and things like that, especially if you've got any moisture or oil in them, and then you get the air gaps coming through. So even if you've got a closed cell spray foam, you end up with air and of course moisture percolating through. So I would say it's not a DIY job. If you're going to have it done by the professionals and check that they give you some decent guarantee. Having said that, some mortgage companies don't like it, there are people who say, well, I can't sell my house then, can I? So I'm going to have all that spray foam taken out. And there are now companies that specialise in spray foam removal. Yeah, hell of a job, but they do it. They take all that spray foam out so that your house can get a mortgage. Absolutely crazy. Probably the same companies who are putting the stuff in. So what else can we say about spray foam? Well, it cuts down all those air gaps. It cuts down on airborne noises. So that's a very nice thing. If you're living near a motorway, or you're living near a railway line or something, or even an airport, and you've got airplanes flying overhead, it's absolutely lovely to have that continuous barrier, if you like, to stop sound coming through. But it's not as easy as that. It stops airborne sound coming through, but if any sound gets onto the structure, in other words, if there's a vibration on the structure, you find that that extra rigidity it's got and the fact that it's stuck to the actual building structure itself means that it actually transmits sound. So you get a very peculiar thing. You get more resonance in the house because you've got this solid structure. You find that the whole acoustics of a house can change dramatically when you put in spray foam. Now, I'm not scaremongering here. I'm not saying don't have it done. All I'm saying is be aware that it may soundproof your house in one way, but it may enhance noises or peculiar little resonance in the house that you've never experienced before. So the other thing it does is a lot of spray foam has been sold in the past because people have had roofs which are on their last legs. They're suffering from what we call nail sickness, which is normally where the nails rust away and the slates start to slip off. Nothing wrong with the slates at all. It's just the fact that they're not secure to the battens any longer. So these guys come in and they say, we don't need to renew your roof, leave the slates, they're perfectly okay. We stick this spray foam on the inside. It sticks all the slates together, it sticks all the battens together, and it kind of gives you a lovely insulation at the same time. So you think, oh, that's a miracle, that's a marvellous solution, saved me £5,000 of having a new slate roof, and it's only cost me £2,000 to have a spray foam put in, and they're telling me I'm going to get a payback period because it's insulation that is probably paid for itself in 5 years or something like that. So you think that's a great idea. As I say, great idea until it comes to the point when you try to sell your house. Then they want to hack the whole lot off, and then you end up having to have a new roof anyway, because it's very difficult to get that spray foam off and leave all those battens intact and all those slates intact. They all start falling off, and it really can be a little bit of a nightmare. So it's one of those where I'm sitting on the fence. At one point you're saying, what are you saying, Roger? Are you saying spray foam's a good thing, or are you saying it's a bad thing? More importantly, would you have it in your own house? No, I wouldn't, but that's because I'm perfectly capable and willing to cut in that insulation, spray around the edges of the insulation with the fixer foam, tape over the joints, put up the vapour barrier, put up the silver foil plasterboard, and make a decent job of it that way. I've been doing that for very many years on loft conversions, and although it's a laborious job, nobody likes doing it. Once it's done, you can just forget it. The problem is with that insulation, as we know, that very often, because it's a horrible job, it's left to the labourer to do, and they don't always make such a great job of it. When you look at it as a low skill job, they just come along with a saw and they kind of measure up roughly and they cut it in, and it goes in as a few gaps. I mean, I've seen some horrendous ones, and if you get a thermal imaging camera and you go round a loft and you just look at it, you can see all kinds of places where the insulation hasn't been done very well and there's cold bridging going on at those points. Now, it isn't just a question of you losing heat out of the house. The cold bridging can mean that it's an ideal spot for airborne moisture in the house to condense on. So you will find that you start to get mould, particularly around things like roof windows, where very often that detail is not done particularly well. There's an insulation gap there, and we've spoken about keylight roof windows, which have that expanding foam collar that goes all the way around. When you fitted the window, you just pull the tape, and the expanding foam collar takes care of all those little air gaps and makes a nice snug fit. But a lot of people who are putting in roof windows, other roof windows, don't necessarily put any kind of insulation around that edge, and of course that becomes another cold bridging place. Whereas if you've got spray foam, you put the windows in, you're all ready, and you go over the spray foam, and all around the edges of the window are sealed. So one more thing I'd like to say about spray foam is that when people have this foam sprayed in the loft all around here and the whole thing is sealed up tight, they find that it cuts down on all those drafts, warms the house up quite a lot. But what they then notice is that their extractor fan in the bathroom and maybe their cooker hood in the kitchen are not working as well as they were. And the reason for that is that there's no air being replaced when that air is being sucked out. And if you don't get that, it doesn't vacuum the house, cause a collapse of the house. All it does is just makes those fans not work efficiently because they're not powerful enough to suck on that vacuum, if you like. So what we find is that unless you put some trickle vents in there, you open some trickle vents on the windows, if you've got double glazing, got nice sealed windows, draft proofing all around the house, and you've got this spray foam in, especially if you've got a timber frame house and you've got the spray foam in all the walls and so on, so you've got a continuous vapor barrier around there and you've got continuous draft proofing, you will find under those circumstances that it will mean that you're not getting enough replenishment air into the house. And of course what that also means is that when the house is warmer and you're not getting the ventilation, that the humidity in the house is also building up, and it could well be that you're starting to get damp problems in the house where you didn't have those damp problems before. You'll be nice and warm, but it'll be fuggy, and of course that can also cause problems for people like dust mites and allergies and all the rest of it. So again, it comes back down to this thing of getting airtight houses still need to be ventilated, seal it right, but ventilate it right, that kind of thing. Seal it tight, but ventilate right. Any of those phrases you like. Just remember that you still need to breathe, you still need air in the house. So if you're going for this option, make sure that you still allow a little bit of replacement air to come in. So what I'm really saying, I suppose, is that spray foam is a good idea. It could be done well. It would solve a problem of having to transport all that massive insulation all over the country. So I think in a way it would be a great thing for cutting down our CO2, if you like. But the mortgage companies really need to love it, because if the mortgage companies don't love it, it's game over. Nobody wants to be in that situation where they can't sell their home. So I'm Roger Bisbee. I hope you found that useful. Do come back and see us soon, because we will have more coming up on Skill Builder, more rants, more how-tos, more everything really.